That's another one for the books. Oh, hi there. I was just finishing up reading the last chapter in my assessment textbook. The way time flies. Another semester gone, another year gone. We're headed into our practicum. Excited and nervous. Those are the two feelings that are coming up for me. Luckily, we've been well prepared. This semester, I had one burning question that has stuck with me throughout the whole semester, and that was, how do we make self-assessment more meaningful for students? I just wanted to begin by taking you on my own self-assessment journey. I began by looking at an initiative that the CBE began. The Student Learning Plans by IRIS allow students to document their personal learning throughout the year. It has 4 main components. We have to begin by collecting some artifacts of learning from the students. This can be written work, an art project, a video, some photographs, or a journal entry that they may have composed. The teacher plays an important role in helping the students choose what artifacts to include. When we have a whole collection of a child's artifacts, it tells us a lot of things about the child's learning. Artifacts can tell us if a child is at the beginning, developing, or expanding stage of learning a certain subject or topic. Here's one of my personal artifacts. It is a lesson that we created for the Calgary Science School as a class. We then broke into small groups to teach our lessons. It was a great learning for me because it was one of the first lessons that we were actually able to plan and carry through. Since we had 2 separate occasions where we were able to meet with our students at the science school, we were able to see what worked and what didn't between the first and second session. At the end, we also had to compose a reflection of what we learned and how our lesson had gone. It was a great opportunity to reflect back and see what we would have done differently next time or what worked great. Sometimes it is not possible to see what the learning was in the moment, so this is why it is so important to always take the opportunity at the end to reflect back on what you learned. The next step is understanding yourself as a learner. This is knowing what your likes and dislikes are, your strengths and weaknesses, what's a successful learning environment look like for you, and what's a frustrating learning environment look like for you. I started off by taking a multiple intelligence test. As you can see, some of my areas of strength were kinesthetic, naturalistic, and interpersonal. Some of my weaknesses were musical and intrapersonal. I think that goal setting is an essential part of education. It allows students to make meaningful connections to what they are learning and strive for something that they actually care about. Students are most successful when the goals are actually meaningful to them. When students set goals, it helps us find out what the action plan will look like to get them to their desired goal. When setting goals with your students, make sure that they set SMART goals. This means make them specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Here's my learning blog where I set some personal learning goals at the very beginning of the course. I set an action plan for them, and now I'm looking back to review them. It is now time to look at some strategies that I can put into practice to help me achieve all my goals. The strategies you use can be specific to each learning goal, or they can be broad to cover a variety of learning aspects. My strategies were to reassess my original goals to see what ones I had already achieved, narrow down the ones that I still had left, and then I wanted to redefine them so I could somehow combine all of them to keep them. So my learning goal at the very end, which I have now successfully understood, is how do you make self-assessment meaningful for students? We do this by creating student learning plans like the IRIS. We teach effective goal-setting strategies and make sure that students set SMART goals. We give opportunities for the students to share their learnings with their peers and with their parents through conferences. And we do this all in a safe and risk-free environment. Here's my final reflection on self-assessment. The number one thing I learned this semester is that you really have to trust and buy into the process. The outcome of self-assessment is not evident until the very end and there's enough of the students' data collected to see a growth or to see some sort of a pattern. This is important to understand because you need to build a strong relationship with your students so they are able to trust you and they are able to buy into the process of self-reflection Goal setting is also key to this because goals allow the students to make it more personal and make their learning more meaningful to them because their goals are specific to their learning and to their specific needs. It's also important to give students choice in how they're being assessed because again, along with goal setting, it allows them to make a more personal connection and it allows them to develop their ideas in a way they're comfortable with, which will, in the end, show their best work. You also need to show students or help them with strategies to obtain their goals. It's not always clear to them how to get there, and so it is important to take the time to get to know your students' goals and to really build that relationship and strengthen it to give them more opportunities. This is what I have to say about self-reflection, and I have to say that after this semester, I really believe in it a lot more, and especially after doing this project, I really understand how it can help my personal growth, which in turn will help me help my students with their own personal self-reflection. Thanks!